Hello and welcome to this short presentation about French, which is taught at GCSE at Jersey College for Girls. As you may already know, all of our students will do the French GCSE, so I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the course and a bit about the rationale as to why, as well, we value French as a really important subject at GCSE. So first of all, we need to take into account the fact that French is a global language. You can see here all of the places in the world where it is recognised as maybe an official language, including here in Jersey, and also places which are observers of the Francophone world. So maybe French isn't recognised as an official language. However, it may be that French is recognised by those countries as an important language. Alongside English, it is one of the most important languages across the world for business and is one of the few languages as well, alongside English. In fact, only English and French have this status as being spoken across all 5 continents. We also take into account the historical factors and why French is important to Jersey. So obviously there are things like its geographical proximity, the history and the special political relationship that Jersey has with France. And in the future, certainly the role of French in Jersey's connection and relationship with France will become stronger. Jersey does, after all, depend on France for its electricity, some of its imports, and also the connections into mainland Europe. And we also think it's important to celebrate the French heritage of the people who come to JCG. So around 10% of people currently living in Jersey are directly descended from French origins, and lots of people studying French at school will have French DNA. I know I certainly do. So we study French because it is, first of all, a really good language for the international marketplace, and any language learning is a transferable skill that you can take with you. French words make up about 29% of English, so students often also see those links with their mother tongue, and it's also recognised that by studying French, you can boost your ability to acquire other languages. For example, students who often take up their second language of French or of Spanish or Italian often find that having studied French, which is also a Romance language with similar grammatical contexts, similar vocabulary as well, this helps their further language learning. Also, it tends to be the language that students joining us have been learning the longest and have a better knowledge of. We can provide greater opportunities for extension and support in ways of tailoring teaching groups to accommodate a wide range of grades and targets across an entire year group. Here is the exam structure of the AQA GCSE, which our students sit. As you can see, there are 4 exams, and each of the exams is worth 25% of the GCSE. Students will be told in their classes exactly what is comprised in each component, but you can see as well down the bottom here that there is also the opportunity to sit the French GCSE at different tiers. Foundation tier is capped at a grade 5. In old money, that's around a grade C+. And of course, you can go up to the higher tier, up to the grade 9, which again, on the old GCSE, wasn't actually a grade, and it would be like an A star. I'll just give you a moment to just have a quick read through then the details on this slide. And of course, it's worth mentioning as well that the majority of our students do sit the GCSE at higher tier. So now let's have a little look at the topics which are covered on the French GCSE. It's worth me pointing out as well that the topics and different types of exam are also the same for Spanish and Italian. So maybe if you're a student who's thinking of studying 2 languages, actually it's really useful. You become an expert in what the exams are demanding, and also you are exposed twice to the same content. Again, let me just give you a moment to have a look at the different topics which are studied as a part of the French GCSE course. Now, looking at these particular topics, I'm sure you will agree that quite a few of these are also familiar because they've been studied in part and during Key Stage 3, during years 7 to 9. So in fact, the GCSE is building and consolidating and developing your linguistic skills to a higher level. Of course, it's not just about learning in the classroom, and also keeping our learning in the classroom. Languages is one of those subjects which we need to be extending ourselves beyond the four walls. And you can see here a couple of photos from the last time we were able to take a trip. We normally do a study visit to Rouen, which is in the north of France. We take the boat over and we have a fantastic day trip to Paris. Other things that we've done on previous school trips to Rouen, aside from being based in a languages school throughout the week and being fully immersed in the French language, are things like a macaron making workshop, going to visit French galleries, eating lots of food, and of course students have some retail therapy time as well, practicing their French in a shopping context. However, the most important learning happens not just in those classrooms, but also because students are given the opportunity to stay with a French host family. And that is where they will stay with each year. All of the families are police background checked, and we have been working with the families in Rouen for many years. It may be that we decide to change the location of our French trip. However, it is always run through a company which provide us the best value for money, and we look forward to running a trip as soon as we can. The other thing worth noting is that through an external company and not run through JCG, although we are always willing to help students access this, you are able to go and do some work experience in year 13 in France. It's quite similar to Project Trident, so students maybe choose an area of interest where they would like to work, for example, in a museum, in retail, in a cafe or a bar, and they complete a week's work experience, supervised with an accompanying adult who takes the group across to France. It's a fantastic opportunity, which actually Miss Morris, that's me, the person speaking, did in their year 13 as well. I worked in a museum and it was fantastic. So lots of different reasons to be learning languages. Of course, it's not just useful for traveling, but also work and business. And also in this day and age, even though the world is getting smaller and smaller, the connections are getting bigger and bigger. One of the quotes which I often say to students is, in the future, there will be two types of people who will be left behind: those who don't speak English and those who only speak English. As you can see here, there are lots of different reasons for people to learn a different language. Just a few key headlines here, and in fact, if you do a quick Google, it's a bit depressing. If you look at the language learning scene in the UK, we are in such a lucky position to be, first of all, very close to mainland Europe, but also in a school where we really recognise and value the importance of languages. You can see here from this diagram of the ability of 15 to 30-year-olds able to read and write in one or two languages, that the UK is really trailing behind. And it wouldn't really surprise me if a lot of those people included in that actually speak or read another language or write another language, because they have been brought up in a multilingual environment. It's also costing about 3.5% of the UK's GDP each year, having a lack of language skills. And now I just want to quickly go through some language learning myths. Myth number one: Spanish and Italian are easier than French. This is not true. However, your experience of learning Spanish and Italian may have felt easier. And actually, that's because you've already started learning a language. And when we've come to do things, for example, like in Italian, when we do the passato prossimo, the perfect tense, you've already done that in French. So those concepts and the way that it all works will feel familiar to you. You might often as well come across vocabulary that is very similar to the French that you have already learned. So I'm afraid that there is nothing scientific to say that learning Spanish and Italian are easier than learning French. In fact, they are equally weighted as being the same. Also, some people say studying one language is better than studying two languages. Well, again, that's not true. You're simply learning another skill, and particularly as we progress out of the other side of the GCSE towards A level, you can see how enriching studying two different languages are. Some people might say, well, if I study two languages for GCSE, I'll get myself confused and it will be more unhelpful than helpful. But again, you're learning how to study those two languages. And with more exposure, your brain initially will react to those foreign languages as differentiating between your English part of your brain and everything else. So it might be that initially you start to clump everything together. However, with time and with more study, you will discover how useful it is, and your brain will start to notice that, okay, there's my English and there's my French and there's my Spanish. It will start to weed through them. And actually, students as well find, sort of what I was saying before, is that the two languages consolidate each other. Maybe it's a grammatical concept that you're looking at in class, or maybe it's vocabulary. Another language learning myth is that students who study two languages at JCG for GCSE do worse. Again, this is not true. Spanish and Italian are two of the most top performing subjects in the school. And that's because that people's French really do help boost their language acquisition, particularly in the first term where we are behind for Spanish and Italian, because of course we have only been doing it for an hour a week and your French has been able to cover more things and you are more advanced. So the two languages help each other out. So I hope that was useful as well, because I know that certainly when I've spoken to students who might be a little bit on the fence between picking a second language for their GCSE options, they might think, oh, well, I'm already doing French. And actually, I think having a second language in the mix might be a little bit too tricky for me. So what are our top tips to succeed on the French GCSE course? Well, quite simply, do the work like you would be doing with your other subjects, learn new vocab, practice your grammar, which we'll be doing anyway. And in year 10, we'll have 3 hours of lessons a week. And in year 11, we'll have 2 hours of lessons a week. Talk as much as possible. And quite often as well, students who have done the GCSE and continued to A-level have said it's not often that you actually, for your subject revision, get to listen to music and watch stuff on Netflix, and that counts as revision. So have fun with your French. Go online, play some games. It's all about interacting and engaging with culture. You could possibly even partake in the Eisteddfod and also come to France with us on one of our school trips. Most importantly though, all of the French teachers in the languages department are here to help. So if you are ever worried about anything or you're looking for an opportunity to extend yourself, please do just ask us for help. I hope you found this recording helpful talking through the GCSE course. And of course, if you have any questions, please do just get in touch with your French teacher. Thank you.